Our speaker this morning is Olivia Kalu. Olivia is a four-year boarding student originally from Nigeria. She currently lives in Potomac, Maryland. She's the co-chair of the DEI Student Leadership Council and the prefect on US 4 East. She's also the proud roommate of Anna Guo. Olivia?
This week marks the start of Inclusion Week at the Hill School. Inclusion Week is a celebration of diversity in our cultures, but most importantly, raises awareness of the importance of inclusivity in schools, workplaces, and the world. This week provides an important opportunity for us as a community to stimulate productive conversation around inclusion. When people think of the word inclusion, it is associated with diversity, belonging, and having a safe space. I agree with these words, but there is so much more to being and feeling included. When I think of the word inclusion, I often associate it with two phrases: learning not to be ignorant and acknowledging and understanding differences. These phrases do not perfectly describe me, and I always wonder why I am sometimes uncomfortable with differences or choose to be ignorant. In October 2020, I was in Nigeria when the End SARS protests erupted. End SARS is a decentralized social movement against a notorious unit of the Nigerian police force with a long record of abuses. To be honest, if I was at school, I would have paid a little attention to it because I wasn't personally affected. I remember being in the car going home one day when I was caught up in a protest, stopped by the police, and saw tear gas being thrown just miles away. I remember just wanting to be home with my family, my heart racing, and the constant thought of why me? My house is a few miles from government buildings and the city square. I remember hearing of stray bullets going through windows, and each day as I woke up, I prayed to God that it wouldn't be me. Demonstrations rocked the country for 2 weeks. 2 weeks of living in fear, 2 weeks of staying home, 2 weeks of being worried for those around me. At this moment, I was forced to care and do my research on the situation that was happening around me. I couldn't simply turn off footage of protests erupting. Instead, I was living in it. I remember this event to be a life-changing one for me. There's so much going on in the world around me, and sometimes, yes, I do choose to ignore it. Where ignorance is bliss, 'tis folly to be wise, as said by Thomas Gray. In other words, what you don't know can't hurt you. But I disagree. Ignorance is not bliss. I remember moving to London when I was 8. My peers were fascinated by me, by my hair and my accent, which I saw as quote unquote normal. To my peers, I was an alien. I remember hearing whispers of kids stating the obvious. I knew this about myself and wondered why they were so fixated on my differences. Questions I thought had obvious answers were asked. Have you swam before? Is Africa really like the Lion King? At that moment, I was baffled and offended by my peers' narrow-minded ideas about Africa. That could have easily been me asking one of my friends an obvious yet ignorant question. I realized my peers were genuinely curious about my culture and heritage. Ignorance is a decision that is made. We can either take the time to care, learn, or simply shut out new knowledge. I'm not standing up here telling you to have the answer to everything, but don't shy away from ignorance. Instead, use it to better yourself. The Hill School has a mission to ensure every member of our family feels welcomed, included, and safe. I will admit it was a rocky start, but I have truly found people who accept me for who I am. I have formed friends from all walks of life and share traditions through simple conversations. I am fortunate enough to attend a school where I can learn about people's differences, whether we share them or not. There is still work to be done on accepting and understanding differences here at Hill. When I am called the name of another Black student, or people refer to my home country, Nigeria, as Africa, you are choosing to ignore my differences. What makes it so hard to remember my name or the country I am from? To make someone feel included is to ask questions and remember those small details about them. Inclusion is to ask questions about one's culture and have a willingness to learn. Throughout this school year, I have listened to my peers talk about their differences and sometimes the hardships they have faced just to be accepted by society. What makes you and I different? The world tends to see differences as something abnormal that needs to be fixed and is associated with words such as weird and ugly. Stop listening to society's demands and engage on the journey to self-acceptance and embracing your differences. It hurts to live in a world where differences are pointed out, where being liked is more important than being yourself, where people make choices for the sole benefit of pleasing others. Although I know what it feels like to be seen as different, I often find myself focusing on people's differences. And I always wonder, why am I when I know how it feels to be labeled as different? Change is weird, a bizarre sometimes, but often self-inflicted circumstance caused by our own conscious actions. We fear the truth that change is in our best interest because to be self-aware is actually kind of scary. To be honest, I have no idea what the future holds for me, but even with this uncertainty, having change feels good. Over the past few years, I realized change should be embraced to help each of us understand our capacity for growth and learning. As you leave chapel today, think about what makes you different and how are you willing to embrace it? How can we as a society stop being ignorant and take the time to educate ourselves on certain issues? Despite our differences, all of us gathered here today have something in common. We are all human. Change is weird, but being weird is the truest thing that we can do. To be weird is to be authentically you. As I close out my chapel talk, and as we go into Inclusion Week, I will leave you with a poem that I wrote. We seek to be seen, to be needed in a society that often doesn't see us. Everyone wants to be wanted. Everyone wants to be loved. We all want to belong. It is part of our nature. Be true to yourself. There is nothing and no one that compares to you. You're wonderfully and beautifully made, and you're in the right place for you. Accept your differences. Just imagine if we're all the same. For me, every day is an opportunity to grow because I am not perfect. Every day, I get to try again and again to get it right. Thank you.